the Chicago Bulls have made a free agent signing, and as you can see on the screen, reported by Chris Haynes from Yahoo Sports, Thaddeus Young has reached an agreement with the Chicago Bulls for 3 years, $41 million. Um, I'm making this video after processing this for about a few hours. And I just want to get my thoughts on it because obviously this is a big signing for the Bulls in general. Because this helps their future of the team and their players that are on the roster currently. So we're gonna move over to Casey Johnson's Twitter page. So I first want to start out with some of the positive things I think about this signing. As you can see from Casey Johnson, Thaddeus Young has started all of his games in the last 4 NBA seasons. So basically, he's been a starter for most of his career. He has come off the bench, but it was earlier in his career. But like I consider him basically a starter. All right. And he also, if you, what Casey Johnson also reported is that he is also a very durable player. He's has at least played 73 games out of the 10 of the 12 NBA seasons he's played in. And then in the lockout season, he played 63 of the 66 games. So he is a very durable player. He's going to obviously get into the 70s, which is very important for the Bulls because they're very injury prone. And he's also going to be that good veteran in the locker room that the Bulls definitely needed. He's also tough-minded, which is obviously going to fit into Boylan's system very well. I think he's going to be very versatile, which is what the Bulls also needed. So those are the good things that I see with this signing. Obviously, I hope he's coming off the bench, which I think he is. And he could hopefully be a stable presence. So the thing is, though, is that I will have to admit at this moment, which is about 5 hours after the signing has been told out by Chris Haynes, I am not currently liking this signing by the Bulls. I'm having some issues thinking of how Thaddeus Young actually kind of fits into the players the Bulls have right now on the roster. If you follow me on Twitter at Duncan_White14, you definitely know that I really wanted Taj Gibson to come back to the Bulls. I thought the Bulls, what they needed off the bench was a power forward or really just a big man who can play both the power forward and the center, who can guard multiple positions, who can defend the rim. He can also defend the perimeter, can rebound the ball very well. It can also score in the post, score in the mid-range, can hopefully hit the three, and also have the ability to either start or come off the bench and have the same effect on the game. So, and for me, like Taj Gibson basically checks all those boxes, in my opinion. And just knowing that Taj Gibson has, seeing him before, play for the Bulls, and know that he is a great veteran, has a big voice in the locker room. People always listen to him. I thought he would be perfect. But clearly, because the Bulls are trying to go at a faster pace, they decided to go with the more versatile and more athletic guy. But in my opinion, I'm having issues because I think the Bulls needed more of a big man more than a hybrid 4 type of guy. With me, when I look at what the Bulls really, really needed, I mean, the Bulls were 25th in rebounding this past season. This is a big issue, in my opinion. The Bulls were obviously one of the worst defensive teams in the league, and they were 30th in three-pointers made per game. And when I look at what Thaddeus Young brings, when I see Thaddeus Young's game, it's now just kind of like being just a shooter in a sense. Thaddeus Young doesn't handle the ball that much anymore. In his prime years, which are about a couple years ago, Thaddeus Young can post up, he can handle, defend very well, defend multiple positions. He's always a mismatch, and he can put the ball on the deck and really be effective. Now with Thaddeus Young, it almost seems like he's transitioned to just being that spot-up shooter and the guy that can put the ball on the floor and get to the rim. I think he's a good defender still in a sense, but now it's like he's not the mismatch anymore on both ends of the court. before, it was like Thaddeus Young is too big for smaller guys, and he's too fast for the bigger guys. And on the defensive end, he was too crafty for any of the guys who try to post him up, so he could handle the bigger guys. Well, now in today's NBA game, it's like you don't really have that issue anymore, so he's not really a mismatch on the floor, which would be an advantage for Thaddeus Young, but instead now he's just kind of like what the NBA is like, has a lot of players of. So it's kind of hard for me to like get on board with this because he, again, like I just see him only really as like a shooter, a guy that can put the ball on the floor and drive to the rim. He's not a pick and roll player really, and he hasn't really shown much in the post in the past years. I also think that because when he does play the four, he's not the greatest rebounder for a power forward, which is what I thought Taj Gibson would definitely bring. I do think that if Lowry or Wendell get injured, he can obviously slide into that starting lineup, but I think just over the recent years, it's like I don't really know what we're getting out of him every single time. And I've watched some Pacers games. He's kind of inconsistent sometimes. And now especially because he has been a starter for the past 4 seasons, and he averaged 12 points last season. I don't know if you're going to get the same production off the bench in less minutes, and you have to come right in and just, boom, you have to be right in the game. So that's where I have my concerns with this, and I really wanted Gibson because I know he can play either the starter or the off the bench type role. With Thaddeus Young, I don't know yet, and I mean, I hope it works out, but I'm a bit concerned with how he fits in and if he can actually be that spark plug off the bench. When I look at like the lineups, obviously this does allow the Bulls to move Lowry down to the 5, or you could just take out Lowry and have Wendell play the 5 and put Young at the 4. But like in my opinion, we almost already have like a Thaddeus Young in a sense with Otto Porter. I mean, Otto Porter could play the 3 and the 4, and he's also bigger and also, in my opinion, a little bit stronger and a much better shooter than Thaddeus Young. So it's kind of hard for me to like get on board with this because it's almost just like a replica of Otto Porter, but not as good. It's not something new that the Bulls need. They need something new to come in. I also wanted just consistency. And what I've been hearing a lot from the Pacers, and I've watched this too, is that Thaddeus Young on the offensive end isn't always that consistent. So it's kind of, that's something the Bulls need, though, is that consistent force off the bench, or just that consistent veteran that you're going to get at least 12 points every single night. And also Thaddeus Young's shooting ability is mostly just a corner 3, and he's not always that great at the top of the key. So obviously, with any signing it's going to be either the positives or the negatives. I just think the Bulls, considering that this is $41 million, and I know the third year is not fully guaranteed, but it's a lot of money for a guy that's coming off the bench who's been a starter for the past 4 seasons. And it's just mostly been a starter his entire career. To now, shift to that mentor type role, in which I don't even know, like we haven't really even heard of Thaddeus Young even being that good of a leader. We've heard, he's a great teammate, and don't get me wrong, I think he's a great teammate, but we have never heard of him being that leader before. But for him to transition to being that bench guy, that bench veteran that could be a good mentor and a good leader for a very young team to help these guys grow and fit in very well, it's kind of hard for me to get on board with that. So, obviously this is a humongous thing for the Bulls right now. I hope it works out. I hope when I'm all my concerns, they just go away immediately. But most importantly is that the Bulls got their veteran that they definitely needed it off the bench. And I hope Thaddeus Young has a great time and great career in Chicago, because we're definitely going to need him. And looking forward for the Bulls for what they potentially need to do. I know there's this whole thing about signing another point guard like Patrick Beverley. Obviously now the Bulls only have about $10 million in cap space plus the mid-level exception, which is only $4.87 million-ish. So I think Patrick Beverley's kind of out of the idea now, but you never know. But in my opinion, I think we kind of needed a point guard that is actually willing to be the third string and push our 2 younger point guards to become better and better each day. So a guy like Patrick Beverley just can't be the third string. That's just not who he is, and it's not worth the money. So maybe looking at a guy like George Hill. I'm also looking at a guy like Raymond Felton, two veterans that know how to be on a team, and no matter what, they're ready. But I don't want to be taking away time from Kobe White or Chris Dunn, because those are the 2 point guards that we don't know which one's going to be the point guard of the future yet. And I don't want minutes taken away from them unless they really start playing bad. So I hope Thaddeus Young does really well in Chicago, and hope the Bulls continue to be looking for good veteran mentors in free agency.